The late summer sun blazed over Dry Valley, stretching shadows long across the golden plains, as the heat shimmered like a warning from the earth itself. People in this forgotten land learned early that secrets travel slower than dust storms, but hit much harder when they arrive. And on this particular afternoon, a secret was about to break wide open. Evelyn Marston, dusty boots, torn dress, eyes wild with fear, had been dragged to the far edge of Black Ridge after a misunderstanding spiraled out of control. The townsfolk, already restless after weeks of drought and tension, were hunting for someone to blame for the sudden loss of their cattle, and rumors spread like wildfire that Evelyn had been spotted leaving the ranch moments before the largest stampede in years. Fear made them foolish, pride made them cruel, and the combination sent the valley into a dangerous frenzy. The woman was tied to a crude wooden frame, the sun beating down, ropes cutting into her arms and legs as she tried to plead her innocence. But no one listened. The sheriff had ridden off to fetch the mayor for a trial. But the angry crowd didn't want a trial. They wanted fast justice. They wanted someone to punish. And Evelyn, a wandering seamstress with no family and no voice powerful enough to fight the mob, became the easiest target. Rancher Cole Hawthorne stood apart from the chaos, big-shouldered, sunburned, and carrying the silence of a man who felt more than he let on. Cole had seen many things in his life, droughts, blizzards, death, betrayal, but nothing unsettled him like injustice. When he arrived at the ridge and saw Evelyn tied up, her leg yanked painfully upward by a rope, her back arched in strain, he froze, not in shock, but in anger so deep it rooted him to the ground. "Don't look there," one of the ranch hands muttered, trying to pull Cole away before trouble started. But Cole did look. He stared hard. He saw the fear in Evelyn's eyes, the desperation in her shaking voice, the way her breath trembled as if she was clinging to the last thread of hope. And in that moment, he made a decision that would change the fate of Dry Valley. Cole didn't care about the whispers, the stares, or the warnings. He walked straight toward her.
"Stop right there, Hawthorne!"
shouted Duke Bennett, the loudest and meanest of the ranchers. "This ain't your business." But Cole kept moving, every step fueled by rage and clarity. His boots kicked dust behind him as if erasing any chance of turning back. "She's tied up," someone yelled. "She might be dangerous," another man barked. Cole ignored them all. He reached the wooden posts and placed his hand gently on Evelyn's shoulder, steadying her trembling body. Her breath hitched, not out of fear but out of relief that someone, finally, was willing to see her humanity. Cole lowered his voice, rough but comforting. "You're gonna be all right. I won't let them hurt you." That sentence alone sent the crowd into an uproar. People shouted that he was siding with an outsider. They hollered that he was betraying the valley. Cole didn't budge. He moved to untie the rope around her waist, but Duke stepped forward, blocking him. "You touch those knots, you're turning your back on all of us." Cole's jaw tightened. "No," he said, his voice slow and deadly calm. "I'm turning my back on injustice." The crowd roared. Dust swirled. The tension became thick enough to choke on. But Cole reached for the rope anyway. Evelyn squeezed her eyes shut, terrified of what would happen next. She whispered, Don't get hurt because of me." Cole glanced at her, determination burning in his eyes. "Sometimes doing the right thing hurts," he said. "But it's still the right thing." And then he pulled. The ropes loosened. The crowd gasped. Duke lunged. Cole raised his hand, just a gesture but strong enough to stop the man mid-step. "She's coming with me," Cole declared as if it were already decided. The people shouted, furious, confused, betrayed, yet Cole didn't flinch. He lifted Evelyn down from the frame and held her steady when she nearly collapsed from exhaustion. The valley watched in stunned silence as he carried her toward his horse. And at that moment, the line between obedience and justice was drawn like a canyon across Dry Valley. Cole knew the entire town would come after him. He knew they'd call him a fool, a traitor, a man blinded by emotion. But he didn't care, because he had seen the truth written not in words, but in the terrified eyes of a woman who had no one left to defend her. And he knew, deep in his bones, that this was only the beginning. Cole Hawthorne had never run from anything in his life. But as he rode through the valley with Evelyn slumped in his arms, he knew the price of protecting her would be steep. Behind him, angry shouts echoed across the plains, carried by the wind like arrows fired from 100 bows. The town wouldn't let this go easily. They wanted someone to blame for their hardships, and now that Cole had defied them, he had painted a target squarely on his own back. Still, he didn't stop riding until he reached his ranch, a quiet stretch of land sheltered with cottonwoods, and an old barn weathered by years of storms. Once he set Evelyn down and cut the last of the ropes, she collapsed on the porch, breathing hard, hands shaking from more than just exhaustion. Cole knelt beside her, offering her water and a blanket. "You're safe here," he said, though he knew it wasn't entirely true. For the first time since he met her, Evelyn's voice softened. "Why would you help me?" she whispered. Cole looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a woman who had been dragged through pain not because of guilt, but because of people's fear. "Because someone had to," he answered simply. But what Cole did next, that's what truly enraged Dry Valley. Instead of hiding Evelyn or sneaking out of town, he marched straight to the mayor's office with her beside him. When people saw them walking through the main street, Evelyn bruised and unsteady, Cole walking tall and furious, they dropped what they were doing and stared in disbelief. By the time he reached the mayor's house, half the town had gathered behind him, buzzing, whispering, glaring. Cole knocked once, hard enough to rattle the windows. When the mayor opened the door, Cole said in a voice loud enough to shake the porch, "We're not doing this in the shadows anymore." He pulled Evelyn gently forward. "She gets a fair hearing. Not a mob, not a noose. And I'll stand with her until it's done." The crowd erupted, shouting, cursing, demanding Evelyn be punished immediately. But Cole didn't waver. While the mayor hesitated, unsure how to handle the explosive tension, Cole did something that shocked the valley even more. He laid out the truth. He told them that he had found evidence earlier that morning, hoof prints, leading away from the ridge, tracks that didn't match Evelyn's direction but rather pointed toward the north pastures, where rustlers had been spotted 2 weeks earlier. He had kept quiet because he wanted proof. But once he found Evelyn tied up and abused, he no longer cared about waiting. "She didn't stampede your cattle," he said loudly enough for all to hear. "Rustlers did. And instead of hunting them, you nearly destroyed a woman who had nothing to do with it." The townsfolk didn't know whether to be embarrassed or furious. Some lowered their eyes. Others clenched their fists. Duke Bennett, red-faced with rage, shouted, "You're covering for her! You're choosing her over us!" Cole stepped forward, his presence like a storm swelling in the sky. "I'm choosing justice," he growled. "If you can't stand that, then maybe you're the problem, not her." The mayor ordered an immediate investigation, one the entire town was forced to watch. Within hours, the tracks Cole had found were confirmed by 2 deputies. By evening, word had reached them that the rustlers were seen riding toward the border, driving stolen cattle ahead of them. Evelyn's name was cleared, but the moment the truth surfaced, the crowd felt something even worse than anger, shame. They had accused an innocent woman. They had tied her up. They had watched her suffer. And worst of all, they had ignored the one man who tried to stop it. Cole wasn't done, though. He demanded that the town publicly apologize to Evelyn, and he stood beside her during the gathering, daring anyone to refuse. One by one, the townsfolk admitted their wrongdoing. Some apologized with trembling voices. Others cried. Evelyn held herself carefully, her strength rising slowly, her voice steady. As she said, she forgave them. Because anger was a weight she no longer wished to carry. That night, after everything had settled, Evelyn stood on the ridge overlooking the valley. Cole joined her, leaning against the fence. She glanced at him. "Why didn't you walk away?" she asked softly. Cole shrugged slightly, eyes on the horizon. "Because sometimes a whole town forgets what's right. Someone has to remind them." Evelyn's eyes glistened, not with pain this time, but with something like hope. "Thank you," she whispered. Cole tipped his hat. "You don't owe me thanks. You just deserve better." And for the first time in her life, Evelyn believed that maybe, just maybe she did. As the moon rose, silvering the valley, Cole realized he had become more than just a rancher that day. He had become a symbol of defiance, of truth, of courage. And though the entire town had raged at him, hated him, doubted him, he had still done what was right. That kind of courage leaves a mark on the world. And in Dry Valley, that mark would be remembered forever.